Oh. Hi, welcome to the first episode of the discussion of the Sandman series. This is a discussion that I'm very excited for. We have the same cover, even though we have different editions. Um,
Different edition. Yeah.
because this is a series I read 10 years ago, loved it very much, remember absolutely nothing about, but have been meaning to reread ever since I first finished it. And I am even more excited because I have with me a very special guest, the one and only Dr. Fantasy. Now, I'm sure anyone watching this probably is aware of who you are, Philip, but just on the off chance we got some stragglers, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, yeah, the mug says it all, I guess, right? Uh, um, yeah, I'm Philip Chase, and I have a YouTube channel that is dedicated to fantasy. But I do stray every now and again into other genres because I'm by day a medievalist, an English professor. So I will dabble over there sometimes. I also like to do a little bit of sci-fi. I've done Dune and some other things, and I'm not sure what this is, but whatever we're calling it, um, it's something I'm enjoying, and I'm glad to be talking about with you. So yeah, and also I've started doing some manga as well. So and it's fun for me to do this too because I grew up on comics. I just want to say that it's very natural for me to return to graphic novels, manga, whatever, storytelling with illustrations. It always I frequently feel very at home when I
Mm,
read something like this because of how important comics were to me back in the late 70s up through the mid 80s.
mhm,
So this was something I miss Sandman. I'm a Gaiman fan. I love American Gods and The Ocean at the End of the Lane. Somehow, I think I was in college or something,
mm.
or graduate school when this was coming out. So I missed it. But I'm so glad to be making up for it now.
Nice. So, were you not aware of it, or was it just something that you wanted to read but never got around to?
The latter, yeah, more
Mm,
just something I was aware of, but for whatever reason slipped through the cracks, and got more of a boost in terms of I need to read this when the TV series came out,
mm,
and I
right.
didn't finish watching because I'm terrible at watching, too busy reading, but I watched I think the first 5 or 6 episodes,
Mm.
and it was enough for me to say this really looks really cool. So I need to dive into this series. And then you gave me the wonderful invitation to read it along with you, and that's it. Okay, we got to do it. So here we
Yeah, I'm really glad that you accepted. I was thrilled. And yeah, this is, like I said, a series that I have been wanting to reread for a very long time. And the first time I sort of blazed through it because I had to return all the library books I borrowed. But I thought I'd finally get around to it when the TV show came out. That was my trigger as well. And I haven't read any other superhero comics. I think I was trying to remember why I even decided to pick this up in the first place because I'm not much of a comic book reader, not just because I preferred novels. And I think it was because I had read American Gods and I really loved it. And I knew this was by Neil Gaiman and I wanted to read everything by him. I guess that was probably where I was at. And so, and I had also read The Ocean at the End of the Lane by that time, I think. So yeah, I all I remember about this is that I love it, and how it begins and how it ends, which I won't tell you,
go. Oh
and
yeah,
and the character we meet in the eighth issue. That's pretty much all I remember about the series. It's almost like a first time read for me as well.
yeah, because we've read the first 8 issues, which
Hmm.
you have pretty much bound up together there, right? In
Yeah.
your version, my version has 20 issues in it,
Mm,
but I only read the first 8 for
okay.
this, so I have no idea what happens beyond that. Because I think also that's pretty much where I left off with the TV show, coincidentally.
Mm,
Uh,
interesting.
it's right where I believe the 8th issue ends is where I stopped watching the TV series, which
Oh, cool.
I don't think there's quite a one for one correspondence between this and the TV series. Very
Okay.
close, though. I was surprised how close they were.
Hmm. I didn't get all the comic book references that come up in later chapters, so I kept looking them up, and I also saw actor names for who played them in the Sandman show. So I think, yeah, I thought at least from that, it felt like it may have been covered pretty closely. I haven't seen the show yet. I probably will either after we finish the first two volumes of these bind-ups, or when we actually just finish the series. That's probably when I'll finally get around to watching it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I like the show a lot, actually. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was very well done. And in some ways, I don't know if this is heresy or not, but in some ways, I think the show actually improved on
Mm-hmm.
the graphic novel. I
Oh, I'd
will.
like to
I
hear
can
about
get
that.
into a couple details if you
Yeah.
want on that, but just I'll throw out one example. In the first issue, where we meet the gentleman who takes away dreams or Morpheus's power and essentially imprisons him.
Mm-hmm.
That would be Mr. Burgess, right?
Yeah.
There's a moment when Burgess's son Alex is with his lover Paul,
Mm-hmm.
and it appears in the graphic novel that it's pure accident that the wheelchair scuffs out the circle, which has been essentially capturing Morpheus inside that glass bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just, you see the wheelchair's wheel and it scuffs out the circle, and that's pretty much it. And there's no motive attributed to that. It just seems like an accident. In the show,
Mm-hmm.
you see Paul's face and you realize that Paul feels awful for Morpheus, and
Mm-hmm.
that Paul has done this little scuff in the circle thing, probably deliberately. So there's a lot
Interesting.
more motive. He's clearly torn about it, but there's enough of his sort of empathy in him that he's like, this is terrible. We shouldn't be imprisoning this creature here like this. So I just like that. And there are other moments I felt like gained some weight in the show because of how they chose to present them, different choices for casting, other things. So anyway, I'm not trying to say anything negative about the source material in any way whatsoever, but I thought that the show actually added some interesting dimensions to the storytelling.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that sounds like a really good improvement to make something deliberate rather than accidental, especially because they've had the conversation about letting him go, and that this isn't very
Yeah.
nice to be doing. Yeah.
So in my head, as I was reading these first few issues, I was definitely comparing it to the show. But anyhow, but we're really not here to talk about the show. We're here to talk about this, right? So I just blasted away. Do we want to talk about that first issue?
Yes.
Where poor Dream gets captured and the world goes crazy, right?
Yes, the world goes crazy, and we have four characters whose life we essentially see being wasted away, being unable to wake up.
Yes. So that would be Ellie Marston in Canada, and then there's Daniel Bustamante in Jamaica, and then there's Stefan Wasserman in France. Because this is during World War I. This is 1916, I think it was. And then you have finally Unity Kincaid.
Yes. Yeah.
So those four are representative of what's happening to humanity in general, I guess.
Yeah. We see four characters, but the capture of Morpheus led to much more wide-scale damage. I think each person that we see, each time we go back to these four, we also see what we are also told that these are just four examples. Ellie is in the hospital. There are hundreds like her, and each time we are told that this is just a small representative sample. I thought, that was a very interesting way to tell that. No.
Yeah. No, it's good. I mean, Gaiman is such a skilled storyteller, I think, and he's very good at giving us a sense of a broader picture through very specific faces that may be brief. They may be small side characters, but you get a much bigger picture through them of the consequences of having poor Dream in this captivity, minus his ruby and his mask and his sand and everything. So it's a pretty harrowing thing. I guess we need dreams, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. That
Right?
yes. uh the the lack of dreams, and I think they represented different kinds of dreams too, right? One like the soldier, for instance, was the most interesting one for me. I think he just chased a dream that he had. It didn't turn out the way it did, and then he's shell shocked
Yeah.
from losing the dream or having his dream violated of sorts.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. They all have different manifestations of the consequences of having dream in captivity. None of them are good, because as much as so dream is one of these timeless entities, sort of a divinity perhaps, but maybe more just an entity. uh, it's fascinating to me to we don't really understand dreams, do we? We don't
Yeah, yeah.
know for sure why we have them. They're kind of most of the time disturbing,
Mm, yeah.
unsettling. Once in a while, you fly in your dreams and that sort of thing. But for the most part, yeah, we just have these things, and people have speculated since who knows when, since the
Mm,
beginning, about what they're for. Why do we have them? What do they do? I used to think they were prophetic and all kinds of things, and now we think they're. Some people think maybe they're more about our worries and our fears and our desires and their expressions, all sort of swarming around in there as we
mhm.
lay dormant. But we need them, whatever their purpose is. It seems like I don't know that they're kind of presented here as a release valve of a sort, and when we're deprived of them, there are going to be massive consequences.
Yeah, yeah. Even when they are sometimes nightmares, apparently, we need them. Like the kid who was terrified from listening to the Alice in Wonderland story,
Yeah,
uh, and she's being told about the power of dreams as she begins to fall into that coma that she's in for 50 years.
yeah.
Um, the dude from Jamaica, sorry, I don't remember his name,
Daniel
but
Bustamante. Yeah,
yes, Bustamante. His dream of the castle
yeah,
floating away. I think that was a very powerful statement that the castle no longer existed. So I think there's a statement in there somewhere about how a part of him died the day he went into his dream, and the castle wasn't there. I think, yeah, that was very interesting. I thought it was a statement about like lost dreams and lost purpose even,
yeah.
and what that can do to you. So, but um
Very much so. I would agree with that. That's a great observation about purpose and humanity needing a purpose. And you could say that right from the beginning, this is a very haunting, very bleak story.
yeah, yeah.
We're looking into, in many cases, the worst of humanity. Like, Mr. Burgess is not a nice guy, right?
No.
And even Alex, the son, you see him as a scared little boy. So
Mm,
we're more inclined to be a bit more sympathetic toward Alex than his father.
yeah, yeah,
But he also makes a lot of wrong decisions. And he essentially, what is there to differentiate him from his father?
yeah,
He holds Dream hostage, makes demands, says, if you do this for me, I'll let you go.
yeah.
So it's not a flattering view of humanity, is it? In
No.
Sandman, for the most part.
Yeah, yeah. What triggers it is the fact that this man, the original visitor to Burgess's home, he lost his son in the war, and he's hoping that this person would conduct a ritual to trap death and therefore help him bring his son back. Um, yeah, I think that not the worst of humanity, but something about the things that would drive us to extremes.
Yeah,
Uh, the power, the need for power, which the Burgess family shows, but also wanting loved ones back, which you do at the expense of the entire world, apparently, is
yeah.
maybe he didn't know what he was signing up for, but yeah,
Yeah, well, originally he was trying to capture death, of course,
yeah,
not dream, which tells you,
yes,
yeah, I mean, what they're really trying to do here is and this is a very old story. It goes all the way back to Gilgamesh, the
Mm,
story of humanity trying to overcome our mortality and
mm,
the consequences, how we put things out of order when we make an attempt to do that.
yeah, yeah.
So you very much see that. But yeah, it just seems like a lot of these people are just using each other. You have his Burgess's assistant, Ruthven Sykes,
Mm,
who betrays Burgess, and then along with what's her name, Dee. Her last name is Dee, who was Burgess's lover, runs away with Sykes. She steals the stuff from Sykes.
mm,
So betrayal, betrayal, betrayal. You know,
yeah,
and Alex is left with really nothing substantial in the process. But they keep up this facade of running this mystical center that basically dupes people out of their money.
yeah, yeah. Do you think they both knew that whatever was happening in the world was because of what they did to capture Morpheus?
I think Alex must have known because he
Mm,
had that book that told him who they had in the
mm,
basement or in the dungeon or whatever.
mhm.
He knew that was Dream, and he must have made it's two
The
plus two
connection. Yeah.
essentially. It's like, okay, we've captured Dream, and people can't dream anymore. So I think Alex definitely knew, and that makes it really his behavior even worse in a way. I don't know how I feel about him entirely. The fact that he did act selfishly in the end, and he gets a kind of a punishment of a sort, doesn't he?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
that's the one scene I actually remember properly. It terrified me the first time I read it. The what was it called? The curse of what? No, eternal waking. That's what he has.
yeah,
It
yeah. It's
is,
haunting. Yeah,
yes.
it's
Um
very haunting. Yeah,
yeah, that image of him just, I guess, trembling in his sleep. I've held for 10 years. That's the only thing I actually remember from my first read through. But yeah, that punishment was terrifying.
oh, I think anyone who's ever struggled to wake up from a nightmare will be
Yeah.
able to feel how haunting that punishment is. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
This face I remember. Oh, here you go. That picture.
yeah,
That I remember.
yeah, yeah. That is the picture of misery, right? Yeah. So that's an interesting opening,
Yeah.
and it tells us a bit about who Dream is. He's not exactly a benevolent being.
No.
He is a force. I don't know if indifferent is really true, though. I don't think he's indifferent to humanity. That shows later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is. He's learning. I think, and that's the story in a way. Is as far as I can see, I feel like the Sandman is the story of Dream learning about humanity in a way,
Mhm.
learning empathy, learning some compassion, learning about purpose and meaning. I feel like that's the journey. At least that's how it feels with these first 8 issues.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see reading it that way.
Hmm.
And it also, even though he's a being who's been around for a very long time, since before the beginning of
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
uh, it makes sense to think of it that way because obviously he admits later on that what he did with the ruby probably wasn't a very good thing for himself because he lost some of his power.
right.
Maybe he lost something else with it as well. So he's relearning to uh, one, how to get around a world by being powerless, and then when he gets some of it back, how to now sort of readjust himself to the world. Yeah, I like that interpretation. I think we'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see where it goes.
yeah. And then in the second issue, we meet Cain and Abel and Gregory. Uh,
Gregory. He's got to be the cutest gargoyle ever.
Good old Gregory. Make sure your gargoyle name begins with a G, I guess.
Hmm.
Otherwise, Cain is going to come after you. So yeah, this is part of the bizarre nature of the storytelling here for me. Is just this is so quirky at times. This is Neil Gaiman.
Hmm.
Obviously the illustrators are adding to it as well. I want to give them credit.
Yeah.
Gaiman is the storyteller, but a lot of this medium is a lot of the quirkiness is put through, it gets through to you through the art as well. But they're essentially, I guess, they're part of Dream's realm. Is that kind of the deal with Cain and Abel?
I thought they were in their own world. I didn't. I, I I could be wrong, but I didn't think they were in Dream's realm. I thought he was going to go there after meeting with him. To what is that called? Dream Time, which was the name of his castle.
Okay. Yeah, somehow
But
I thought they were part of his. They call him master and that sort of thing. So I don't know. That's not clear, but he does see their place as a place of refuge. Um,
yeah,
he goes to collapse essentially. And
they are the keepers of stories. I think that's what they call
that's their
themselves
role.
later. Yeah, and they call him the Prince of Stories, which I thought was interesting. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what the connection is though. Why
yeah.
did Neil Gaiman connect Cain and Abel with? Why did he bring them into the story? In other words,
Mm,
obviously he's playing with the idea because he has Cain kill his brother Abel, and Abel apparently just can come back
yeah.
every time. It's like repeated again and again, and you get the sense that yeah, that's humanity. We sort of
Yeah.
kill each other again and again, and we keep coming back like cockroaches, you know. So, but
Or
you,
we
you
make the same mistake over and over again. We don't
yeah,
learn from the past.
we're pretty good at not learning from the past. Yeah. So that maybe is there. Although Abel seems innocent,
Mm,
whereas Cain seems like he's got some major anger issues to work on there.
yeah.
Uh,
And apparently he just kills Abel whenever he's in a bad mood.
Dream had given them something of those scrolls that
Mm,
enabled them gave them rights to something or other, right? It had
I
to be something that Dream had created. He needed something of himself back in order to gain some strength, right? So,
right, right.
yeah.
I thought the scrolls were what made them the
Letters of commission.
keeper of stories. Yeah, maybe that was my interpretation anyway. I don't think it says explicitly.
Yeah.
But yeah, he needed some. He had lost three of his things, in which he had put a great deal of himself in,
Right.
and so he is looking for anything at all that he can get back to make him less weak.
Yep. Yep. And this one also introduces us to one of the most hideous characters ever in literature,
Yeah, uh,
John Dee,
Doctor Destiny.
Dr. Destiny, and his mother, who is, of course, the former lover of Burgess.
Mm,
And she ran away with Burgess's assistant and then betrayed the assistant in turn and had the magical objects from there. That's what.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't remember her last name because I don't know why I do this, but I don't notice the names very well. So until you said the assistant's name earlier, I didn't make the connection that she was the same person who was his mother.
Yeah. Yep. That's her. She's been knocking around for quite a long time since
Mhm.
19. She was a grown woman in 1916, obviously,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
earlier in the 19 teens, and now she's, it says here, like 100 years old or something. So,
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah. She's over 100, right?
oh, she says 90 here. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
90 years of
Right,
age.
right. There was some other character who was over 200 years old when we meet John
There was a
Constantine.
witch, yeah,
Yeah,
later
yeah.
on. It was, yeah, over 200. But yeah, so probably her life has been extended by the magical objects. Maybe, I don't know,
Maybe,
but
maybe.
unnatural. And she doesn't look particularly happy. And boy, I would say that John looks a bit worse for wear as well.
Yeah.
There's
He's
a
only
photo of him there where he looks like a handsome guy.
yeah, yeah. And I
He doesn't
think
look so good anymore.
yeah,
So,
he does not.
and that's a
And
result of the ruby, right?
yeah, yeah, it is. We find out later on that it was why he went insane, and the ruby had a large role to play with it.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay, and then of course, Dream does make it back to his castle, which is in ruins, since he's been nearly a century in captivity, and he meets his assistant, butler, whatever, Lucian.
Yes, Lucian. Is that any character we know from mythology?
Not that I know of. I honestly don't. I didn't catch any references. Maybe I missed something, but I think he's just made up uh,
Mm, yeah,
in here. Presented slightly differently, by the way, in the TV series. You'll see when you watch it.
yeah,
But yeah, he seems like a loyal servant who's like, yeah, sorry, everything's falling apart since you were gone. You know.
yeah. And they lost a library that broke my heart a little bit.
Oh,
uh,
for any book lover,
he looks Dream looks pretty terrible and famished here. He still doesn't have a lot of his power back on
no.
this page. Yeah,
So he
he
has to see the three fates, who are.
yes,
I love how Gaiman just throws out. They're sometimes they're the ones from Greek mythology, sometimes they're
yes.
the Norse ones. He goes all over the place with
He
this.
uses all their names, no, and I finally, well, I didn't. There's a Terry Pratchett book called Weird Sisters,
Mhm.
and he calls them Weird Sisters. I was able to make the connection of three and three, I suppose.
Yeah, there they
The
are.
Weird Sisters, yeah.
And they change places, obviously.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
so there, it's like okay, they're supposed to be sort of like past, present, and future, but you get the sense with them changing
Mm,
all the time that one becomes the other, that they're really all one, aren't they? There's
yeah.
just really one sort of eternal present, and
Yeah. Yeah.
past, present, and future are really that's a
Time.
distinction that we make within our limited perception of
Mm,
we're trapped within time, so we see it in a
yeah.
linear way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, that could either imply simultaneity or that it's one flow of time. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
which I can't really wrap my head around, but it's fun to talk about. Yeah,
yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, that's really cool. I was looking up a lot of these references as I was going. I think all the names they used to call death by, for instance, the names of fate. There were some Egyptian gods there, some Mesopotamian gods,
yeah.
some demons of hell. I didn't know any of them. I looked all of them up, and some of them are DC characters from other comics.
Yeah, this is where we get. And by the way, this is where I first felt like, oh yeah, this is the author of American Gods for sure.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we do get Batman there and Green
Oh,
Lantern.
yeah.
You know, a few. It feels like because this was through DC, like
Mhm.
Gaiman was obligated to make references to some of the characters in the
Mm.
DC universe. Those are pretty much stripped out of the TV series entirely.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think they're that. It's a big loss, honestly.
So there's no John Constantine and
So John Constantine. Okay, I'm not going to give it away, but
okay.
there is a Constantine
Mm.
in the series. You'll see what they do there.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, that they don't get out of every DC reference. If there's a character who plays a significant role, they're going to be there. But they do play around with everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, no Batman and Green Lantern.
No. Okay.
So
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
yeah,
I don't think that goes on. If we don't even end up, I think later on we see John D stole this ruby from them, right? So they weren't even important, just that somebody stole things from each other. But wait, so the mother had the ruby, and
yeah.
then Batman took it back. Did uh, Doctor Destiny then steal it back from Batman?
I think that he got it from his mother.
Oh,
And
okay,
he became a supervillain in this version. He became a supervillain and was stopped by the guys in tights,
I
the
see.
superheroes, the DC superheroes. And in the TV series, they've dispensed with the DC superheroes.
Mhm.
But yeah, you'll see how that works. It
Okay,
works pretty well, actually.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, the ruby did come from the mother.
The
Uh,
ruby came from the mother. Oh, because in this scene it looks like Batman took it from them, and yet,
Yeah, when he
yeah.
was defeated, I think when they defeated Doctor Destiny, they took
Mhm.
the ruby. They
Oh,
succeeded
okay,
in getting
and
it.
then he got it back somehow. Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I used to read more Marvel than DC,
Mm.
so I'm not totally up on Doctor Destiny and all that, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm not familiar with any of these characters, so what I know is from from this story only, and anything I don't think I looked up any extra references either for this one.
Yeah, I don't think you need to know a ton.
Hmm.
You won't
Yeah.
miss much if you don't know those references. But we do finish this issue with poor Abel, all sort of
Yeah.
resurrected and telling this, trying to tell a happy story while he's crying blood tears.
Yeah.
I'm not crying. I'm not really crying. Yeah.
No. And he renames the um Goldie. He renames the
Irving.
gargoyle Goldie.
Yeah,
uh,
but he's thinking of him as Irving.
yeah. Because did he do that renaming because of Kane's insistence that gargoyle's name should start with a
G.
G?
Yeah. G. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, I don't know who the friend is because Abel says I'm calling you Goldie, obviously changing the name to a G name,
Hmm.
but after a friend of mine who went away. So I don't know. We're gonna find out who that is later on.
I hope so. Yeah, I'd like to see more of Cain and Abel in the next issues, and I'd like to see what happens with Goldie. I'm very invested in that gargoyle.
Yes, yes, and yeah. So cool. Yeah, there's another aspect of this that I thought was made more poignant in the show. And I can't tell you what it is because it would be a spoiler, but you'll see when I think what I mean
Mhm.
if you do watch that episode. The aspect of Dream visiting Cain and Abel and
Mhm.
needing a bit of something that he created in order to get his power back. That's something they do, I think, better in the show, but I don't want to say what it is because it's a spoiler.
Okay. Okay. I'll.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks. I will look out for that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, episode or issue 3 is kind of a disturbing one. You mentioned Constantine, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this is the one with John Constantine and his ex, who has the sand.
Mm.
And this
And
is the one where we meet the witch, who's like 200 and whatever, 40 years
57.
old.
Yeah. 47.
47. Yeah.
Yeah. She's 247 years old. And yeah, there's a thief who gets trapped. I don't think at this point we understand quite how or what trapped him.
Yeah. The thief in the house, and he's having all these dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you know who this is? I don't think I understood.
Let's see. I'll see if I can find that. Okay, that's a little bit later. That's where. Okay, who were you pointing at there? John Constantine?
No, the panel just below him, there's a person on the couch and watching TV.
Oh, I think that is John Constantine. It's not a very good picture of him though.
Oh, I see. I thought that was some old person wasting
Yeah,
away.
because everywhere he's going, he's
Hmm.
hearing dream songs, like songs with references to dreams.
I see.
And there's one on the TV saying dreams are like angels, they keep bad at bay. And you'll notice there's some subtle things in here. It says on the TV screen, there's something that says AIDS on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
something that comes up as well. Even in
Yeah.
the presentation of his ex, who was all wasted away,
Mm-hmm.
she looks like somebody who possibly could have gone through AIDS. Now, it's not
Mm.
AIDS in her case because it's presented as her mind has been taken away by the sand,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
should never have been in human possession.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, I think Gaiman is clearly referencing AIDS. And of course, this came out in the 90s, early
Yeah.
90s. So
Yeah. Late 80s, early 90s, I think. But or
yeah,
maybe early 90s. Yeah. It's
early 90s, I want to say.
yeah. Okay.
So of course 80s was a huge time with
Mm-hmm.
AIDS was a big thing, and there was no way to keep someone from dying from it, and so he's clearly, I think, addressing that. And it's so interesting too how dreams cape, you always have these like images
Mm-hmm.
of people and stuff dreaming.
Yeah.
He's got us all in that, we're all wrapped up in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dreams is in that cape, so but yeah, it was a nightmare in a way. AIDS was a kind of nightmare that
Mm.
um, a lot of people went through, and it was a scary nightmare, so it's interesting how Gaiman works that into
Yeah.
this, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think about it like that. That's a great interpretation of the nightmare of AIDS, and that's what the girlfriend was experiencing. Uh, yeah. or it seemed like the connection there makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
because also she lived a carefree life, if
Yeah,
one
yeah,
way to put it. And she kind of partied a lot and did some drugs, it seems like. And
mm-hmm.
so, what you would say was possibly risky behavior. She engaged in
Yeah,
behavior that was more likely to get you
mm,
something like AIDS back then.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I suppose also the fact that she was an addict, and the stimulation of drugs when that ended, or she found something to replace it, which was the dreams that she lived in
yeah.
forever. Yeah,
Which is another aspect of humanity that is presented here is that I think, and it's kind of dreary in a way, but a lot of people spend their lives trying to escape from themselves,
yeah, yeah.
and they just don't want to face up to it. And there's all kinds of ways that, and mostly unhealthy, that people uh, find an escape. And usually the escape makes things a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the case here, certainly, when she's lost in the dream world with the sand and all of that. So, yeah, this is how it's portrayed
mm.
here.
So she had access to the sun, but she couldn't quite control the world she was in, right? Like what she was dreaming of. So
Right.
that that did make it essentially a nightmare that she was trapped in as well.
Yep. 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 I would say so. Interesting ending to this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some horribly creepy. What becomes of her father as like
Yeah.
sort of like intestine
The yeah, just
goo all over the
showered on
walls?
the walls. Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah, he's essentially a layer on the walls.
But there's
And
a moment of, would we call it compassion from Dream, where he essentially ends her life by, you could call it
yeah,
euthanasia if you want,
yeah, yeah,
where she goes out with a happy dream of a sort.
yeah, yeah. She goes out with a happy dream, and yeah. I This was interesting also because you might, at least I did at this point, think, oh, Dream can solve many things, and maybe he can heal her or cure her or something and make it better for her, but he just makes it so that she's not having a nightmare when she dies, which is a very compassionate thing to do as well. So that was an interesting direction for the healing to take, I thought.
Yeah.
uh yeah, I mean, what I would expect is oh, she became all better now. Not that might be more poor storytelling, but that's what you sort of anticipate. At least I did. So
Yeah, she was beyond, I think, his ability to heal. Essentially, he says the only thing keeping her alive was the sand. You know,
yeah.
you take that away and she'll pass away. But he allows her to pass away peacefully by giving her a pleasant dream to go out
Mhm.
with.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Which yeah,
an act of compassion, I suppose.
yeah,
It's
I
interesting
think so.
because he does seem want vengeance at times, but this was a more, I guess, a moment of connection between Dream
Mm,
and the mortals that he has to deal with here.
yeah. It seemed that he was equally angry about having been trapped as he was about the um, destruction that they wreaked on the world. It was
Yeah,
almost even, it felt like, I don't remember where that dialogue was, but he's angry about both things, that they um, they hurt him for 70 years and also all of humanity. Um, so yeah, he cares about that, but just as much about other things, like you said. So it it is, yeah. So it was nice to see the moment of compassion that he does also. And I think at the end of this chapter, or maybe the next one, he does another thing that I thought was really nice. But yeah, I
well,
think this might have been my most entertaining chapter, the Hope in Hell.
oh yeah, so we go to hell next. Yes,
Sorry,
where.
were you saying something about
Oh no,
the
yeah, I thought I was ready to I was ready to go to hell too.
okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, this was I liked this in the show, and I liked it also. It's presented. There are some differences in how it's presented,
Mhm. Mm,
which again I'm not going to talk about too much because I don't want to spoil it for you. But for the most part, I liked it in both versions, and the idea that Dream has to engage in this essentially a duel with the demon who has his helmet,
Mm-hmm.
and the duel says a lot, doesn't it? So they go from I'm a whatever, I'm a bug, and I'm a spider, okay, I'm a snake, and I'm an
Yeah.
ox, and back and forth for a
Mm-hmm.
while. And this is an old mythological trope. I mean,
I see.
this sort
I
of
was
thing is
going to
built.
ask.
So many different mythologies have stories like this where there are two
Mm,
combatants who are using magic and they keep transforming into different things and trying to outdo the other, and finally you would presume the good one wins.
yeah. Because I think we see this. You remember from Weird's, no, not Weird's, it's just Equal Rights, the duel between Granny Weatherwax and the Chancellor was like this. I was going to ask you if it's something, if you knew if it was something from mythology. Yeah.
Oh, it goes so far back, yeah. And it's interesting too because we'll talk about that duel again because I think the ending of it is very important. But I also thought it was interesting how Dream meets somebody who is in one of those little cells in hell and addresses him as Dream Lord and says, I hope one day you would come to me, free me, my love,
Mm,
please. And then we see Dream presented as a face that would have been more, in line
mm,
with the person from some, we don't know how long ago this was or anything, but it seems like that demon, Etrigan, who's leading him, deliberately led him by that cage in order to see this person suffering.
mm,
And apparently, this probably is in reference to some mythological story or other
I see.
that I just don't know. But I would guess somewhere in Africa, perhaps,
Mm,
based on the look of the person who is here
yeah.
pleading with Dream. And Dream's response is, "Yeah, okay, I still love you, but I haven't forgiven you."
Mm,
Keeps going, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that was okay. Yeah.
Yeah. What happened there?
Yeah, that makes me curious. I hope we'll get more on this, some more context for this in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
next issues. So we'll see. But I thought that was an interesting moment there, and one to I think remember for the
Yes.
future. I would
Yeah. Yeah.
guess.
So yeah, more about this um
But
and
the main
then
thing is the
Lucifer.
confrontation with Lucifer
Yes.
and company, right? Yeah. So
Yeah. That I forgot this picture of Lucifer, but it feels right somehow. This depiction of Lucifer.
I thought Lucifer
What
looked
did
like
you
David
think?
Bowie in this picture.
Yeah, he does look familiar.
Yeah. I
What
don't
did
know.
you think of this? I don't know what I was expecting for Lucifer, but this felt perfect when we got here.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I'm not sure why the politics of hell have gone in the direction. So they're sharing power with Lucifer, with Beelzebub and Azazel.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe he's going to do more with that in here, or maybe that's a DC thing, or I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
But I didn't see necessarily the point of that. But okay,
Yeah,
fine, and no problems with it. But it is interesting how they do pit. It seems to me like
yeah.
Lucifer's still the one kind of sort of in charge, but they do pit him. Says, "Okay, here, find
Yeah,
your helmet, buddy."
among these millions of demons.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then, yeah, I was wondering how that would work out. And then Dream just throws some sand out and he's like, yeah, yeah, that person has it.
yeah. He's putting himself back together using pieces of himself, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool thing. And then, of course, that with the one demon who has it, Coronzon, I guess is his name.
Coramson. Possibly. I I
I'm not
didn't.
sure if I'm saying
Yeah.
that right.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't do a good job of remembering names, so you're probably right. This.
But interesting how they do this in the Hellfire Club, right?
Yeah.
They have their duel, and it's not a duel with swords or anything else. It's kind of more with the
Yeah.
mind, I think. Yeah.
So this was interesting to me. I think just saying duel, it sort of implied that this is the kind of duel they were having, and and Dream wonders whether he's strong enough to um, actually do it. But also, what they say is it's sort of, I think it's implied it's unclear who how you win, except that if you hesitate before changing form, or lack of imagination. If it's lack of imagination that will get you down, there was no way Dream was going to lose this one, right?
Yeah. Because the dreams are where our imaginations have no tethers whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved how it ends. I love the
Yes.
duel that we get. He becomes a planet, and then
Yeah.
the
In
demon
the
becomes a
supernova.
nova exploding, and
Yeah.
then Dream becomes a universe, all things encompassing, all life embracing. And then the demon is, I am anti life, the beast of judgment. I am the dark at the end of everything, the end of universes, God's world of everything. And Dream simply responds, I am hope.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I did have a question though. I feel like there's a somewhat obvious response. If he said, I am despair, wouldn't Dream be done? Or was the previous answer a version of despair and so he can't go back to it? I was
Yeah.
trying to figure that out.
So my answer anyway, and I'm sure other people might have some thoughts on this, but my answer is that yes, we're seeing on the page a duel between a demon and a representation of an abstract thing, dream, right? I mean, a god or a whatever we want to call Morpheus. What we're really talking about though is humanity. We're talking
Mm,
about people, and these are masks for humanity. And I do think that you could look at the universe as essentially a place without meaning. There's so much void, there's darkness out there, and there's little tiny specks of dust on which we ride, and we live for a few brief years and then we die. And you could say, well, where's the meaning in that?
mm,
So the universe can feel like an empty, hostile, meaningless place. And that's what the demon really represents, the anti-life
mm,
that sucks away all meaning, takes away all life. How do we get through our daily lives? How do in the face of that vast darkness? How
yeah.
do we do that? Well, it's through hope. What keeps us going is the crafting of meaning is hope.
Mm,
That even if you don't have hope at the moment, that maybe if you work at something, you'll have some tomorrow, right? So I think that's kind of Neil Gaiman's answer, which is why it's there are certain issues here, like the next couple ones, where we focus more on John Dee, that I feel are just absolutely disturbing and
mm,
dark and dreary. But there are these moments in this series of hope,
yeah.
of compassion, that really, I think, uh, that's where I think Neil Gaiman is doing his best storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I also really like that it's that dream is hope. So the ability to dream, whether in sleep, like literally depicted in this book, or just being able to dream of a future, gives us hope. That's pretty cool. So in the duel, he's hope, but also as dream, I suppose he's hope in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I mean, if we go with all the different connotations of the word dream. Yeah.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then his exit from the realm is, I thought, was excellent too. That for me was even better than the end of the duel
Yeah.
when Lucifer blocks him and
Why
says
should we
what.
let you go? Now you're in our power. And his answer is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. What power would hell have uh, if those imprisoned here would not dream of heaven?
Yeah.
I love that.
So dream is so essential to life, I
Yeah, yeah.
guess. Yeah.
And then he just walks out. I like that all these scenes, like they have no fireworks. He just goes out there, gets what he wants, but it's not even easy. He has to work for it somehow. But it's not fireworks and great battles or like sword duels or whatever, you know?
Yep. 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 Cool. Good stuff. All right. So are we ready to talk about these couple disturbing issues that
Yeah.
involve John Dee or Dr. Destiny? And I feel like these are other DC villains that we meet
Yeah.
in this Arcanum, the place where they put all the really dangerous, crazy people. Uh,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
one is the Scarecrow or whatever, right? I mean, that's pretty evident. This guy who keeps playing these silly pranks and stuff that he meets on the way out after getting
Mhm.
the um, the talisman or whatever that looks like an eyeball from his mother that he uses to get himself free, right?
Right. Yeah. So now that makes more sense to me why she would have that, because I now know that she was the mistress of Burgess and
Yeah,
she stole things from him.
yeah. It wasn't quite evident where she got the eyeball thingy in
Mm,
here. They make it more obvious in the show, but
I
it's a
see.
different object. He wants to use that to get to the ruby, which is his
Mm,
real goal. But yeah, that's an object he uses to escape um, and hurt some people along the way.
yeah. Yeah. And he's whose dream was did dream wake, who was this? I guess is the question.
Okay, so which I'm
This
trying to find
was,
that page.
it's right
Not the one
after.
where he's a bald kid, or
Yeah. Yeah,
oh,
the person who's dreaming about being a bald kid,
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah,
also a DC character, I thought, or
yeah, yeah.
someone from the Justice League.
From someone from the Justice League, and again, I was a Marvel guy more than a DC
Mm,
guy,
yeah.
so I wish I could tell you. I recognize the Martian though, the one that he
Mm,
takes him to,
mm,
and to get the information. But yeah, I couldn't tell you a lot except that um, they refer to him as not John Doe, but
John.
what do they call the poor guy who he doesn't? It's like he doesn't really know his real name. Scott
Yeah,
Free.
Scott Free,
Scott
right? Yeah.
Free.
That was funny.
No, I yeah, that's a reference I didn't get because I think
Mm,
it's some other DC thing.
yeah, yeah.
But this guy is I recognize him from the comics. Yeah,
Mm,
um, he was part of the Justice League, I think.
I see. Yeah. Right. There was a reference to the Hulk at some point earlier, or they did
Oh,
mention a green person.
I think it's
This
him.
guy.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
the green
Okay.
guy.
Okay.
Because
Hulk is
the
Marvel.
Hulk is Marvel. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Just being a comic book illiterate. um, there was, so the first issue there was a reference to someone who was trying to heal, the universe is trying to heal itself of the gap that dream, the loss of dream created. And so there was this one person who was trying to put people to sleep and give them good dreams by sprinkling some sand on their face. Was that also some DC character, do you know?
I don't know. I don't even remember who that was. But yeah, I'd have to find that, and then probably
Right.
the answer is I don't know.
Yeah, and I was just curious since we were talking about ex comic book characters, but
Yeah,
yes, they go looking for the jewel, and I love this where he's talking about how he travels between the realms, or how he's riding the dreams of people, and to get from place to place.
yeah,
All these sort of monologues that Dream has with himself, I thought were really nice. They told us more about the world, they told us more about Dream, and they were all in first person, which was also interesting. Yeah, I guess everything with Dream is all Dream telling us about himself.
yeah. Pretty cool stuff. Not that it does him a whole lot of good because when he gets to the ruby, because of what Doctor Destiny has done to it, it actually sucks more of his power out.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
Which is
thought
unfortunate.
what Destiny did with the Ruby was really cool. The explanation for it about how he understood what dreams are made of and how he can condense them into matter, and he figured that out to then I guess reconfigure the ruby so it only listens to him. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting moment too when John Dee or Doctor Destiny shows up there, having made this seemingly a connection with Rosemary, who gave him the ride. Obviously, she was scared of him at first,
Yeah.
gives that silly story about her husband being a hitman and all
Yeah.
that. And then they seem like they're buddies, at the end. And then he asks her, "Well, is your husband really a hitman?" And she's like, "No, he's a high school teacher." And he says,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, bang." Oh,
That was very unfortunate. I hate that she finally started to trust him, and then it's like, yep, nope, you're dead.
just in
And
case you thought Dr. Destiny was a redeemable
yeah.
character. Although interesting, we'll have to talk about that because it's the next issue. But
Hmm.
what ultimately happens with this character, I thought was interesting. The resolution to
Yeah. Yeah.
this arc was interesting. I thought,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't. I think we passed by the place where a dream sort of gives humanity good dreams for the night, for just one night. But I think this really added to that picture of dream trying to find compassion.
yeah,
Uh, yeah. I guess this goes back to your interpretation of dream learning to be compassionate. He was probably, yeah, with, yeah, I guess we can talk about that now. We'll come back to the other thing, but he's um he's pretty ambivalent, and it seems like he doesn't care either way what he does with John D, whether he
mm.
kills him or lets him go. It's almost like he doesn't care, and he might want to kill him just to, it's fine, it's easier, but then he finds the way to giving him a good resolution to not getting rid of him that way. I like that whole exchange between them.
You mean at the end when
Yeah, yeah.
John D or Dr. Destiny tries to kill Dream
Mm-hmm.
and instead destroys the ruby, thereby restoring Dream's power, and then
Yeah,
the tables are really turned there. And instead of vengeance, Dream just accompanies him back to the asylum, and
yeah.
he feels for him. He even says that must have really messed with you to
Mm,
have this thing, which is not meant for mortals.
yeah.
This kind of power is not meant for mortals. That's a statement again about humanity and what we are, what we aren't, what we long for.
Mm,
And sometimes the things that we want so badly are not things that are really that good for us, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
eternal life or power over everything, or it would
yeah.
twist us. It would twist us.
I think he says at some point, it's not for mortals to have and not for me to give. You're asking for things. I think when he's punishing Alex, that you trapped me because you wanted things that you shouldn't have and that I don't have the power to give.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's my least favorite of the issues, to be honest with you, the one with all the people in the diner. It's like, oh, this is so awful. And I never really,
Yeah,
they're chopping themselves to pieces and having all kinds
yeah.
of, I don't think we need to get too much into that, except
No.
this is the effect that John D is having on the world. And these people are all consuming each other and themselves. And yes, there's a lot of despair. I mean, this for me was among these 8 was certainly the darkest and the
Mm,
most
yeah.
full of despair of the issues, and it was disturbing to a point where I felt I needed to take a shower after reading that
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Did it bother you too?
It did. I liked how it started, which probably made it worse when they all descended into madness. The waitress, the writer in
Yeah,
disguise. I thought, yeah, I really liked how she was, yeah, whatever she needed to keep her hopes and dreams alive, right? That she
yeah,
has this secret dream. And then, yeah, she's at the end of it, she's putting nails into someone's palm. Like, yeah, that was disturbing, I think, because I sort of immediately got attached to this waitress character and
yeah.
it didn't end well. There was, yeah,
I
and
mean, it's like he's stripping us of our delusions that
mm,
we can make meaning. That you see, I think it's you said it beautifully, because the waitress who wants to be a writer, who pretends
yeah,
she's a writer, not really a waitress, but really she's a waitress who wants to
yeah,
be a writer, right? But in
yeah,
her head, she's a writer who uses the waitress job to observe people.
mm,
And
yeah,
that's cute, but really you're a waiter, a waitress.
yeah,
So Yeah, it's the systematic stripping people of the delusion that we can have meaning, and that's why it's so disturbing, right?
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It also feels like a small scale version of what probably was happening in the world when Dream was trapped all those years.
Yeah,
Maybe not to this extent, this feels a little accelerated, but that's what also was happening to all of humanity, like the slow descent into madness
yeah,
just was compressed into a 24-hour time scale.
yeah, yeah. Although it happens all over the planet apparently, because they're watching TV and everything's blowing up and people are
Yeah, yeah,
hurting
that's true.
themselves. So he's exerting this influence everywhere
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
until until Dream shows up to rectify things, and it doesn't seem to go very well at first, does it? And Dream
Mm.
has to retreat into the dream world where maybe he gives himself a slight advantage there. But
Mm.
he there's a challenge issued here, and it really does seem like Dr. Destiny is going to win until he destroys the ruby and then ends up. It's a pretty brilliant sequence, I thought, here,
Yeah, yeah.
where you have this
Oh,
white space,
yeah.
and you don't realize until a little bit that actually he's on Dream's hand there, and that the tables have turned, and that
Oh, yeah.
right because he destroyed the ruby, thinking that he was destroying Dream.
Oh, I think I read this with these two together. I missed this page
Oh
completely.
no! Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I have to go
Sometimes they
back and
stick
read this.
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes they stick together. Yeah, it's right after he destroys. He thinks it's Dream, but he's destroyed the ruby.
yeah,
He's on
yeah,
this white space, and then we realize, okay, good. And there's where the compassion comes.
yeah,
Right? He says, I don't doubt it, not that it matters. You should never have used my ruby. It was not made for mortals. The damage to your mind must have been considerable. And
yeah,
then John D, he's like, he can't believe it. He's like, you mean after what I did, you aren't going to do anything? And then he says, of course I'm going to do something, John D. I'm going to take you home.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I really like that.
I don't know. I mean, is this someone who is redeemable after what he's done to all those people? That's an interesting question. I'm not putting myself in the place of judge here. I'm just asking the question,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I mean, Dream seems to have lost any motivation for vengeance at all when he gets to this place. In fact, after he acquires everything back, this is the next thing that
Hmm.
happens. He's almost got a sense of being let down. It's like, oh, okay, I accomplished the mission. Now what?
Yeah, yeah,
He also suffers from a sense of a lack of purpose, right?
yeah. It's interesting though. He's someone who's been alive for a very long time, but being trapped for 70 years with and losing himself that way makes him so that he now has to wonder what to do with himself next. That's interesting.
It's a very
Um,
human thing too.
yeah, he's become more human by hanging out with humans by seeing humans for 70 years.
It seems so.
Um,
Yeah.
there was something that I wanted to say. Yeah, the thing about redemption, has to he brings him back. I think one, it's safe to because he's no longer mad, and also Dream acknowledges that he was becoming insane, so he couldn't really help himself. So I
Hmm.
guess I could see the argument for not being redeemable if he knew what he was doing and it was all intentional, but if he had no control, but now he is safe for the world. mm, yeah, it we could talk about that, but I think it makes sense for it does, if not redeem, at least I think it's fine to bring him back to the world, and he doesn't deserve death, at least. But
Yeah.
maybe that's not a bad thing, as we see in the next chapter.
Keeping him alive in a way, he'll have time to reflect on what he did,
Yeah, yeah.
which may be worse than dying. But yeah, no, it's fascinating. I think you nailed it there. The questions that Neil Gaiman is raising and not really answering for us, but he's putting it out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Stuff all about compassion and redemption and a lot of other things. But as we were saying, Dream in the last issue when we meet Sister Death here,
yeah,
which is my favorite of these eight, by the way. I loved this one, the eighth. It was
yeah,
just, there was something really cool about the interactions between them and also the ways in which Death interacts with humans as they die. I thought that was really cool.
yeah, yeah.
Very, very well handled here. Yeah.
I like how chill she is. I think this yeah, like I said, I only remembered three things about the series. I remember Death's character, and I love that it's so different from what you might expect. I don't know if anyone else did Death in this cool nonchalant style of
Yeah.
you know, this person is dead. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It made me very happy when I read it the first time, and yeah, I was happy to meet her again.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And you get hints early on that this is Dream's sister, but also that there's something really, you know, like when she interacts with that guy Franklin in the park, and that says, "Yeah, I'll see you really soon, Franklin." And
Yeah.
you realize, "Oh, Franklin."
Mm.
And I love how it loops back to him at the very end of the issue,
Yeah.
and he gets hit by a
Yeah.
car. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think by that point, especially because of Dream feeling like he has purpose now, or he can do something because of
yeah,
what he gets from hearing the sound of Death's wings, it feels like what's waiting for Franklin isn't very bad. It's because he has this death to take him to wherever he needs to go next. But
so isn't this the most amazing thing that Neil Gaiman has done here? What he's done is, I think he's shown us how it's actually death that gives us purpose,
mm,
not that takes it away. It's death that gives us purpose in
mm,
this world, in this life.
mm,
The very fact that we are going to die means that this is precious, right?
yeah,
This
yeah,
momentary fleeting existence is precious, and that we ought to do our best with it. I love that. I love
yeah,
that, right? Because I
yeah,
think could, many people might be tempted to think, oh, death takes away meaning from life. No, death is what gives it purpose.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like that's a trope we see, not trope, I don't know if that's the right word, but we see that in a lot of other stories, I think, that maybe we have read in common too. But immortality sort of makes people despondent somehow. I think Malazan does this really well.
Oh, sure.
And I think there are a couple of other series too. But mortality and the fear of death somehow gives you meaning, or that things will come to an end
Yeah.
uh, gives more meaning. um that is, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah. And even there's the one scene where there's a baby, which is heartrending, um, you know,
yeah, yeah, then
where the death takes away the baby. And that is true. I mean, life is full of these tragedies.
yeah,
And I think that a full appreciation of life involves an acceptance that life could not be without death,
mm,
and
yeah,
it is full of tragedy and suffering, but it's also full of beauty and connection. Um, so yeah, this was my favorite of the eight by far. I really loved it a lot, and I love how going around with death for a little while shows Dream uh, what purpose there is,
yeah,
in
yeah,
life, and how it ends with him throwing his sand around.
yeah, that he's hearing the sound of his own wings. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I do love this chapter. I think from the point of view of the way the story is told, the one with the 24 hours chapter was probably, I thought, the most well done for me, because of how it's counting down the time. And like, I think it really did a great job showing the descent by counting down the time,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, telling the story that way. Yeah, but
Cool.
but I do love this chapter for Death, and she's a very huge favorite character of mine. I think we'll see more of her I don't know if it's in the next issue, but we'll see more of her. I do want to talk real quick about this artwork. I think at the end of this, when the ruby was destroyed, I think there's a distinct shift in how death is portrayed. Sorry, not death,
Great.
dream.
Yeah.
Because until this point, we see him as the sort of character with the weight of the world on his shoulders, and here there's this sense of relief almost, and that really comes out just from the art. I thought that was excellent. I felt relieved for Dream at this point. So, and that's entirely from the pictures, not the dialogue. So, did you feel like that? Did you see the change in how Dream was depicted?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a pivotal moment, isn't it? When he's
Yeah.
completely restored in terms of his power that he had put into the ruby, and it comes back to him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely, and in his size, obviously, there's a message in having him be enormous and holding Dr. Destiny in his hand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Oh,
before,
yeah.
he looked more shriveled and fragile.
Mm.
So for sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, the art in here is really. I mean, there's some great, disturbing, dreamlike art in here.
Yeah.
Appropriately, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I figured out they just looked like a bunch of cloth spread out to me when I started the issue. I liked being able to figure out what it was by the time I got to the end.
Yeah, it's,
I
it's
did not.
fascinating
Hmm?
because it is sort of skull-like, isn't it, or skeletal in a way,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
otherworldly, and
yeah.
yeah.
I forgot that that's how they pull him down. I only remembered him with the face, and
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, and it also looks like a gas mask too. I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Cool.
Yeah, that was a good issue. I was very excited for being able to reread it. Thank you so much for reading it with me and talking
Um,
about it. That was
yeah,
good.
and
Yeah,
we'll continue it too with the next 8 issues. I'm going to be traveling for a bit, so it might
yeah,
be more than a month before we're able to get to it. But I'm excited to continue.
yeah, yeah. Well, I am excited too, and this feels like a good breakdown. Or yeah, we'll talk about it over email. But I think we can continue on this size, right? We talked for an hour about this, so I
Yeah,
guess we shouldn't try to read more than that in one shot.
I think that's a very wise yes. Stick to 8 issues max. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds good. All right. It was great having you on, Philip. Thank you so much for talking with me about this series, and I look forward to more. I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.